on this boat is the Dockmate, which we took a little picture of earlier. And we're going to get ready to fire up and go out, and so you can actually see how this works. So why don't you give us just a quick rundown on the Dockmate, and then we will fire up and go.
Awesome. Yeah. So the Dockmate, we have the twist remote. We chose to also add the DPS system. The DPS system is hardwired. The twist remote is done wirelessly. There are several different remote options depending on what you like or prefer. Currently, the twist is what we use, or is the preferred remote for proportional systems, so where your thrusters are proportional. Dockmate has just released their Pro series of remotes, which is paddle based. A lot of clients prefer paddles versus the joystick. It might be better suited to them and make more sense. I have one on order. It just has not arrived. It's been very popular, so that's Dockmate's trying to keep up with the demand there. Some clients don't like or don't have as much of a comfortability when it comes to the joystick and the twist aspect of how that remote works, and so that'll give them the ability to control their vessel using paddles. Some of our clients, especially on the bigger vessels, like to be able to utilize one engine at a time. You can do that with the twist remote. You just do so by hitting a 45-degree angle, where else on the Pro remote, because it's paddle, you just engage one paddle versus the other. So it makes a little bit more sense to people, especially depending on how they're used to driving, or maybe they came from an older yacht controller or something that had that style. Underneath the settee, which we can get to or show pictures of, is where the main control box is. It's a pretty small unit that's installed. And then as far as that installation goes, is that we get power over to the Dockmate control box, and then we have comm cables that link into the thrusters and comm cables that link into the throttle controls. And then for the DPS system, that's a little bit more involved because it requires its own antenna. So we do have to go up top and get an antenna, a GPS antenna installed and cable pulled into that. And then there's a comm wire that runs from the DPS system into the main unit itself. So a little bit more involved for getting the DPS system, but for the Dockmate proper, there's a lot of vessels where you'll find that box will be mounted somewhere behind, very close proximity, very minimal wire runs, and usually there's a breaker panel or available power somewhere near where that unit's going to power from. So that makes them a pretty easy system to install. Not a whole lot of question marks when it comes to, is this system going to integrate? And Dockmate is, their engineering and their sales support team is phenomenal when it comes to, hey, we tell, this is the boat, this is the thruster, this is the throttle controls that they have, and they say, hey, yep, this is what works, this is what we need, this is what the package is going to look like, and making sure that the systems are all brought in with 100% success ratio. Of course, with anything, there's always some sort of, there's always those little onesie-twosie things, but for the most part, they've been pretty flawless on getting us product that installs and integrates first time. And then from there, it's just all the programming, user preference. And that's where the Dockmate remote becomes far more. We go from being the very black and white to right smack dab in the middle of the gray area as your user preference, and what does the Dockmate remote do for you, and what can it do for you, and what are the user expectations, how does your boat behave, how do you behave, and we have the ability to do a lot of different adjustments and tweaks to it, but that's a whole nother story.
Perfect. Well, let's get this fired up and taken off the dock. We'll see how this works.
Cool. We can do it.
Jenny B, I don't know how you're going to feel about your new wireless remote system that Timmy just bought for your boat.
This is pretty cool. Like, pretty cool.
If you ever wanted to see one of the best deckhands, there you go.
I am good at some things. Very few.
All right, so we're going to step on board. All right, and here we go. Who doesn't love a joystick?
Everybody loves a good joystick.
And just like that, we are away from the dock.
So typically I just do a quick check when ours goes and just make sure that we have full behavior. But once we get going, it's a pretty simple system. Is that you have your thruster control. We don't have stern. We only have bow.
Yeah.
Forward is forward.
Yeah.
This boat's just a little torquey.
You can tell you've got some hours on that thing.
Yeah. A little, couple hours.
Yeah.
Couple hours. But like I said, it took a while to be able to really understand, what can the remote do, and that's what I think is the important part. Just like with any boating, is understanding what the capabilities and limitations are, and then understanding what is your expectation of what the boat can do. When it comes to how the remote works, is that you have to think of this as a circle. So we're basically dealing with a pizza pie.
Okay.
If I want to get one single engine, I just go at a 45, and that'll engage one engine. If I want to get the other engine, I go at the other 45. If I want to twist, or if I feel like the boat's getting out of hand, a lot of what I do is just thruster based.
Okay.
The further I push down, the more my RPMs go.
Okay.
And the same thing in forward, the further I push, the more my RPMs go. So I had to dial the boat down. Ryan had it going 7 knots, and that was a little ridiculous. What everybody always wants to know is, can it walk sideways?
Yeah.
That's always the question that we get.
How'd you know?
Yeah. And when you get into the current and you get into the wind,
Yep.
it gets a little harder because you only get 10% of whatever your vessel's variables are. So when we start this evolution, we will put the throttles all the way forward, all the way back, and we get the voltage, and it tells it what its 100% variables are. And then Dockmate only gives us 10% of that. So when it comes to walking sideways like we're doing now, is if the boat's moving forward, understanding that every so often you have to kind of kick back and bring the stern around, or if you're twisting, how far or how fast can it twist, and what do you want it to do when you're using the remote, and then how does that work for you as the driver and the operator? And everybody's a little bit different, and everybody kind of has a different expectation of what the boat should do versus what can it do, and that's one of those things that we have to try to program in with that sea trial. Is okay, what do we want to be able to, what is the most important thing for that user, right? Is it being able to make sure that the DPS, if they have DPS, is 100% accurate? Is it being able to, of course I feel like it's always walk sideways. Is it the thruster control? Is it how much throttle do I have in reverse versus forward? Is it how much bow thruster do I have available to me? And that's where I feel like that understanding what your boat's capable of. Now what we can do is, instead of backing her in, spin her.
Okay.
So let's give her a... And what's cool about the Dockmate is when you go to spin her,
Yeah.
when you're twisting,
Yeah.
the bow can get close in.
Yeah.
So start your twist now,
Okay.
even as we have it. And as you're going, if you start to feel like, oh, my bow's getting there, all you have to do is just pull back a little bit. Don't stop your twist.
Oh, don't stop your
Keep your twist going. But then just pull back on the joystick. And then I tell people, if you're not spinning fast enough, you just throw in a little thruster in there. And the twist is the same thing, that if I start to pull off, she'll still twist, but she'll just slow down a little bit. And the same thing the other way. So when we were doing sea trials, I had 2 sailboats that were basically just like this. And that's where the boat was parked. And the gentleman that we were working with was a little bit of an older gentleman. And he was like, if nothing else, I just want to see you pull this boat in and out of this spot. That's all I care about. He's like, I don't know if the system's right for me, but I just want to see this happen because I don't think you can do it. And sure enough, we went right in and right out, and no problem. So here we're stationary. We engaged DPS. The bow got off a little bit, but what I like about DPS is if I don't like how the boat's sitting, I can still make adjustments, and it will disengage and then re-engage, and then I'm fine. But we could sit here pretty indefinitely, and I'm pretty comfortable with how it holds and what it does. I wouldn't walk away in this type of proximity with it just in DPS mode, just because a strong breeze or the locks let out, something happens and the boat starts to drift too much, because I still like having the ability to be like, nope, I don't like where we're at. I can override it, pull the boat back, adjust a position, move the boat over, and tell it, hey, I didn't like my starting point, and you can hear it chirping at me saying, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And then it beeps and says, "Hey, I'm good. You're green light again. I'll hold you here now."
Okay.
So it's a great tool, but I would never walk away from the remote or walk away from being aware of what I'm doing when
Yeah.
it's in DPS mode. But as far as its accuracy and consistency and keeping the boat in its home location, I'm pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
It does a pretty good job.
And how much time? So let's say the battery dies in there. How much time before you can activate your actual controls?
I could go grab them right now, start messing with the controls, and I can put this back on the cradle, and it'll let me use it like a joystick as long as it's plugged into the cradle.
Okay.
If I was up on the flybridge and wanted to start driving or got to, like, I needed full 100% throttle, I can do that. Go back to neutral, hit command, and now I have command again. And that's, the system just, it allows you to have all that function and control. So, and then where we put her is if we back her into here.
Goes against the bulkhead, you said? Cheap mortgage that way. Uh-huh.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
So now, depending on what you want to do, you can either engage twist
Yep.
and use the engines to help bring her around. Or I can get north thrustery. And so I normally do a combination of engines and thrusters, especially when I'm soloing her. Bob's your uncle. We're there.
Alright. Alright.
So when it comes to, like, I do this by myself, and I would not normally feel comfortable if I was stick driven doing this by myself.
Yeah.
But because I know that if I get too close to that boat, I can go and I can fend off by myself and still move her over. And the same thing with. No, that's good. Yeah.
Pretty freaking cool.
All the toys, Timmy, all the toys.